Good morning and welcome to the Here's the Lesson podcast. I'm John LaFront, and this is episode 2, where we are talking about losing, learning, and the power of discomfort. One of the biggest obstacles to growth itself, in my view, isn't failure. It's actually our relationship with failure. It's the story we tell ourselves about what it means to lose. We think losing means we're not good enough, that it's something to avoid or hide or move past quickly. But what I want to talk about today is what if losing and the discomfort that comes with it is actually one of the most powerful teachers that we have? That's what I have learned over the years, but 2 years ago specifically, when I lost a city council election. And with it being election season, I believe it's next Tuesday, November 4th, I've been reflecting on that experience as I've seen signs around the city. It's more of a local election, at least here in Utah, where we're looking at the mayor and city council candidates, et cetera. But what I learned 2 years ago when running for city council gave me one of the most meaningful losses of my life. And it was one that didn't make headlines, but completely changed how I view leadership, courage, and ultimately growth. So here is the story. A few months before the election, I was actually on the city council. I was appointed to fill a vacant seat on the council after another one of the members of the council had moved away, and he had about 4 or 5 months left of his term. And so I was appointed by the mayor and the city council to fill that vacancy. Up until that time, I didn't have any political ambitions at all. I wasn't trying to run, but there was an issue in our city that I cared deeply about and something that I felt was worth standing up for. And when the opportunity came, I felt that quiet conviction of, John, you need to step in. And so I did. And I was sworn in on October 3rd and spent the next several months diving headfirst into city government. And I was reading budgets, meeting with residents, sitting through council meetings that went way past midnight sometimes. And I was learning the ropes and realizing just how much I didn't know, but also how much I ultimately cared. Our community had almost doubled in size over the last 2 decades. And we had both old and new Highland. That's the way people categorize themselves, is one side or the other. And so it felt a little bit at odds, and I didn't really love that. But the opinions in the city were strong, tensions were real, and I wanted to help bridge that divide if I possibly could. And there was this short term that I had that was winding down. And as I looked at the upcoming election, there were 3 candidates that were running for 3 open seats. No competition. So that meant no dialogue, and it was just going to be a quiet handoff. Like basically those 3 would be shoo-ins. But something in me couldn't shake the feeling that our city needed a different voice. So with barely a month before ballots went out, and while I was running a business full time and I have 4 awesome kids, I still decided to file as a write-in candidate. I had obviously no campaign staff, no budget, just conviction, a few flyers, and a willingness to try. And I remember printing yard signs at the last possible minute and a mailer. I remember knocking doors with my kids, their little hands just clutching those flyers as we went door to door, their eyes wide as they talked to strangers and asked to write their dad's name in. And I remember thinking, this is what it looks like to show up. I distinctly have great memories of that period. It wasn't glamorous, it was exhausting, and it was also really humbling. And when election night came, I knew that the odds were stacked against me because not many write-in candidates actually win. And ultimately, I lost. But I didn't walk away empty-handed. Somehow, 742 people took the time to physically write my name on the ballot, which is hard. My last name is Lefrandt. Many people mispronounce it and misspell it, and it needed to be spelled correctly in order for the ballot to count. So I had a lot of things going against me, but I'm really proud of the 742 votes that came in with only a month's time. So yeah, I didn't win the seat, but I won something in my perspective, or my thoughts was much more valuable, and that was some interesting new perspective. So that experience, it changed how I see leadership. It's easy to cheer for leaders from a distance. It's way harder to be one, especially when there's no guarantee of success. Running for office taught me that leadership isn't ultimately about winning. It's about showing up when you could just as easily stay at home. Every door that I knocked on was a mirror that reflected not just what I believed in, but how willing I was to risk being misunderstood for it. Real courage isn't about the absence of fear, it's action in the presence of it. There is this moment I'll never forget. It was the night of the election, and I think my heart just knew that we weren't going to win. And when the results finally came in, I was sitting there just looking at my kids, and we still had Write in John LaFront flyers and yard signs around the house. And I remember thinking, my kids, they saw me lose, but they also saw me try. And that still matters. Because one of the greatest lessons I believe that we can teach our kids or anyone watching us is how to lose well. How to lose without shame, how to lose without bitterness, how to lose and still believe in yourself. When our kids see us fail gracefully, they learn that failure isn't fatal. They learn that courage matters more than comfort. And they learn that the people who change the world aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who fall and keep moving forward. We live in a culture that is obsessed with comfort. As a parent, I see it all the time. We have a desire often to make our kids comfortable. We don't want to see them fail. And I see it in other parents do the same thing with their kids. We also just live in a world where we want convenience. We live in the days of DoorDash and ChatGPT, and we want control and certainty. But comfort, it really hardly ever, it actually doesn't. It doesn't change us. And I was thinking this morning about one of my favorite books. If any of you have read Jim Collins' books, Good to Great is a wonderful business book, but his second book in that series is called Built to Last. And there's this line in there that I love. It says, comfort is not the objective in a visionary company. Indeed, visionary companies install powerful mechanisms to create discomfort, to obliterate complacency and stimulate improvement before the external world demands it. And that is not just true for companies, it's true for people as well. If we want to grow, we have to build in moments of discomfort on purpose. We need to do things that stretch us, that scare us, that make us question whether we can actually pull it off. That might look like, training for a marathon or launching a business, speaking up about something that matters publicly on social media, or having the hard conversation you've been avoiding. Discomfort is the gym where character is built. And just like in the gym, the discomfort isn't punishment, it's resistance. Resistance that strengthens you. That city council experience wasn't about politics at all, as I've reflected on it over the last 2 years. It was about growth, about learning that outcomes don't define us. Our willingness to engage actually does. So here's the lesson. Comfort never creates transformation. Discomfort does. Maybe the most visionary thing we can do is to deliberately step into the things that stretch us, to stop chasing comfort and start choosing courage. You might fall, you might fail, you might lose, but if you let it, that experience will refine you. It will deepen your empathy, it will sharpen your purpose, because growth often comes dressed as discomfort. And losing might just be the disguise growth wears when it enters your life. So if there's something you've been avoiding because it feels uncomfortable, maybe this podcast today is your sign. Take the step, make the call, say yes to the thing that scares you. You don't need to wait until you're confident. Confidence is the reward for action, not the prerequisite. And when you fail, because at some point you will, I hope that you'll fail forward. Fail with your eyes open and your heart willing. That's where the learning happens. Thank you for listening to Here's the Lesson. If this episode resonated with you, I hope that you will share it with someone who might need a little courage today. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the Here's the Lesson newsletter on LinkedIn. And also, you can subscribe this podcast. It will help me so much as I try to get this word out there. The links are going to be in the show notes for weekly reflections on leadership loss and the lessons that shape us. Until next time, keep leaning into the discomfort. That is where the growth begins. I hope you all have a great day.